All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ATA's Feather, Prime, and Block podcast slash YouTube channel. First of its kind, I think, and something we're going to try out here. For those of you that don't know us, I'm Denis Cloutier, Executive Director. We have Ferd Klassen, our Vice President, and Niverville Auto Body, and of course, Norm Bruneau, our President, and St. Claude Auto Body. What's our podcast for, and why are we doing this, and why are we having YouTube videos? It's a number of discussions recently, and originally it was going to be called Norm's Rant, and then as things developed, it began to change, and we were talking about a talk show format, like Between Two Ferns, and then I'll hand it to Norm and tell us how you came up with the name, Norm.
Yeah, and this kind of started with the video last week and number of comments, good, bad, otherwise, but entertaining nonetheless. And me and Dennis we just kind of spitball this idea a little bit. Dennis mentioned that what did you say, between ferns, or I don't know, it's
Between
before
Two
my time.
Ferns, Zach Galifianakis during COVID.
There you go. That's what I was after. And the funny part is too, when we were on when Ferd and I were on the technical committee with Joel McPhail and Grant Haggerty, we had talked about doing a podcast already back then. It just never came together. So the stars kind of aligned, and so of course we needed a catchy name. And so whenever I need something thought of, I go to the place where all my good ideas come from, and that's the shower. So hit the shower. Our water bill is horrendous, as my wife will attest, but it's always worth it. So yeah, feather prime and talk came to mind. I think it'll roll. Time will tell.
I feel it's important to point out that none of the people on this podcast are professional actors, and nobody's been paid for their appearance, which will become painfully apparent, I'm sure, in the next 10 minutes. So why don't we just let's talk about the trade show a little bit. We had a fantastic trade show. Thank you to Rob Boyce for the
Yeah,
concept of the Collision Olympics and a focus on the student activities. It was a tremendous success. And I think we had a student from Stonewall Collegiate run into his teacher's office on Monday, a student that maybe is struggling with high school to begin with. He was the only student from that school that came in, ran into the teacher's room on Monday morning and said, I need to change schools. I'm going to go to a trade school. That was awesome. I'm going to explore auto body. I hope that
nice.
we impacted a number of students like that, but that's a great story from the trade show. Um, and then, there was some things came out of it that said, hey, we should start this podcast. And I think it started with the estimating competition, which Norm and Ferd were kind of managing for us. So maybe, Norm, I'll get you to talk about how that went for you.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I got to spend some time with some of the estimators, kind of on the on deck circle. And Ferd, I think you were actually by the estimating station, correct?
Correct. Yep. I was doing the very important job of watching the stopwatch.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was very interesting, and again, great estimators and some good conversation before they wrote the estimate, and then obviously invited them to come back after they wrote it to run it through the scrubber and see what was missed. The scrubber wasn't used officially to score, but it was just fun to see the things that were missed, and it's so fun when you put the additional pressure of being in a room full of people and putting the time crunch on it, and just the nature of being in a competition, I think, just adds another layer. So it was funny going over some of the stuff with some of the estimators running through the scrubber, and they missed admin fee, pre-scan, and they're kind of just going, oh my God, I would never miss that. But on the same token, it kind of speaks to the scrubber, because in our day-to-day, sure, we're not in that setting, but we're also bombarded with questions from techs or interrupted. So I think it just speaks to, the scrubber's not about how much it's just about having that extra set of eyes. So there's a shameless plug for the ATA scrubber, just dispersed into the podcast. But I think the really cool thing to talk about is some of the conversation that came out of it. For the most part, like I said, it was easy things that were missed, but there was a lot of discussion around feather prime and block, and the aluminum rate. So we had a couple of shops mention that they have been denied feather prime and block when it wasn't on an exterior panel. So we actually pulled up the rule when they were there. We had a great conversation about it. And, in fact, you do get paid for feather, prime, and block anytime you are doing that. So anytime you're applying primer. So,
The estimating standard actually says repairs requiring body filler. So
yeah,
anytime you're doing a repair on a body panel, whether it be a quarter panel, a door, a roof, or a rad support, you got to put body filler on it, a rear body pan, feather prime and block applies.
yeah, absolutely. So, and there's that just speaks to some of the, sometimes it could be with a certain estimating center, a certain estimator. So there's room for improvement there, I think, just to raise awareness. And shops don't want to necessarily, start something big, right? If they're told that if they get denied something, they'll just, they'll check the rules and they might move on. But I think that's the neat part about when the trade comes together. So whether it's with a podcast like this or an event like the trade show, I think just starting these conversations can raise some awareness around some of the things that are falling between the cracks. And I guess same goes for the aluminum rate. So aluminum rate, as Ferd, I'm sure, dug up the official estimatic document for, applies to any aluminum part you are removing and installing, replacing, or repairing. So I think that's correct, Ferd?
That is 100% correct. Anytime you're working on an aluminum panel, the aluminum rate applies. And Mitchell sometimes will spit up a little caveat there that left front fender, and in quotations it'll say aluminum, but that doesn't always necessarily show up. So I mean, we always like to encourage shops, and my techs and my estimators as well, do a magnet test on it. If it feels like aluminum and sounds like aluminum, do a magnet test on it and ask for the aluminum rate, and it's up to MPI to disprove it. And we're not saying that they're out there to disprove things, but you don't know what you don't know, and that includes estimators at MPI, including shops. So you brought up an interesting point there earlier, Norm, and I'm just going to touch on that a bit. Estimators deny things, and your own shop estimator will just think that is a common thing, and that is actually true. Don't ever assume that it's true. Research the estimating standards and challenge that estimator if he's incorrect. Don't let what an estimator suggests to be correct be your new rule in your shop. Get into that estimating standards and find out what's true and get what you should get and move on. So yeah. I just want to throw that in there. Sorry.
No, that's a great point.
And that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. If you run into this problem, reach out to us. If you're running into a constant denial, reach out to us and we can confirm, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to comment before. I mean, let's just keep in mind the person at the other end is just trying to do their job as well, right? They're working with the information they have. So, from what we've seen, I don't think that there is a culture, as Ferd said, to go out and try to disprove things. But on the same token, that's what the ATA is here for. And, Dennis would be bored if we didn't have things like this come up. So we want to keep them moving. So yeah, all in all, great event, great conversation. Yeah, and I think, as you said, a big shout out to everybody at the ATA, Dennis included. Great work putting that event together.
Just to take that aluminum conversation a little further, we talked this morning a little bit. I just wanted to reiterate that. Maybe Ferd, you want to talk about an example where you're just doing an R&I on an aluminum fender?
Yeah, so the rule actually says it includes carbon fiber as well. So aluminum carbon fiber, it's applied to all body with a B in quotations and body S with an S in quotations in your Mitchell estimating system. So if you're either repairing it, replacing it, R&Ing it, that includes rad supports, bolt-on, rebars, different things. If it's aluminum and you've got an aluminum certification, that's the key here. You need to have the aluminum certification to qualify for that extra amount. You could technically put it on the estimate. No, you actually should put it on the estimate, and you should be approved. And the aluminum right now is $95.44. So you're giving up a bit of a difference there if you're not putting it in there. I suggest, make a sticky note and put it on your computer to remind you, or better yet, subscribe to the estimate scrubber so that it'll catch it for you. Even the scrubber, it is a very wonderful program, but don't rely on it to make sure that you're catching it. It probably will catch it based on the vehicle model, but certain panels, I'll give you an example, a Honda Odyssey van, certain Odyssey vans were built with aluminum fenders and some were built with steel fenders. So depending on which plant it was built in, you could potentially be giving up a few dollars in aluminum rates if you're not applying it correctly. So simple, look at your estimate, your description in the part line, and it most often will tell you if it's an aluminum part, but do a magnet test if it sounds like, or it feels like it could be aluminum, just so you're not missing
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And so the operation that was in question at the Olympics was R&I of the box on an aluminum truck, right?
Yeah.
So there was a cab corner replacement. So that's a common one. R&I of the tailgate if you're removing it to change the box sides. So these are all operations that should be paid at the aluminum rate.
100% correct.
Yeah.
I think good examples of just the kind of conversations that were generated at our trade show outside of the content that we provided, and just the social aspect of us all getting together as a group and sharing our stories kind of leads to this YouTube series or podcast.
Yep.
So I guess in my research on how to do this, I'll point out to everybody that I'm supposed to tell you to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Apparently that helps us somehow, so I'll encourage you to do that. We'll see how this takes off. The little graphic I have beside me, if this really takes off, I'm willing to sell that space to, a sponsor that wants to sponsor each podcast. So I'll sell the
Nice.
space over my right shoulder here.
Absolutely.
Other than that, hey, provide us comments. Let us know either in the comment section of the YouTube series, or drop us an email, reply to one of the ATA emails you get and say, hey, I got a great idea for your Feather Prime and Talk series. We'd love to hear from you. And I think that pretty much brings us up to an end, except one housekeeping issue is that normally this time of year, first week of November, I'm talking to Norm Bruneau and he's clean shaven. And I'm not sure what's going on. He's got a mustache. Norm, you want to fill us in?
Well, and Ferd already gave me the gears because that's what Ferd does. And yes, it is Movember. So again, this year we're raising awareness for men's health, raising some funds for all kinds of great things. But my two friends here seem to be stuck on the wrong part of this and are grinding me about not starting a fresh sage. So, I have a beard year round. So I think you guys should cut me a little bit of slack. I've gotten rid of a lot of facial hair here. My kids are crying this morning. My wife didn't recognize me. I mean, like, let's just get over it, and let's just get behind the cause here instead of giving me a hard time. So, and I expect to see 2 donations at the very least after this podcast from you two fine gentlemen here for all this grief. And thanks for bringing that up, Dennis. Excellent work
And
there.
where do we go to do that, Norm?
That's on the Movember website. You just search St. Claude Auto Body, or I think you can plug "good looking ginger" into the search tab as well. And I obviously I would come up. So either one of those things will get you there. And I plan on fully abusing the ATA newsletter and broadcasting some info on that. So thanks for bringing it up.
All right. Well, I think that brings our first episode to a close, and thank you guys for
Record
joining
time.
us. And let's see how this
Yeah.
develops.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.